Could you repeat again? What is the beanie made of, Grant?
It is made from Odin's pubes.
Which brings us to.
I reckon I wouldn't mind. I reckon I wouldn't mind plucking Anthony Hopkins' pube.
So many images.
That right there reels us into today's podcast.
Yes.
Thor came out in 2011, the fourth installment of the MCU. What did we think when we first saw Thor? Grant, actually, I'll let you take this one. Resident Thor fan.
Can we just keep in mind that I watched Avengers before I watched Thor?
Noted.
Interesting.
So when I first watched Thor in 2012, I fell in love with him straight away. Thought he was really hot. We're talking about the movie or him?
Either.
Oh, right. Okay.
Well, if that was your first impression, he's hot.
No, well, I just wrote a bunch of notes on. I wrote a bunch of notes on his abs. Now I got nothing. So that's awesome. Personally, I knew he was going to be my favorite from like as soon as I saw him in Avengers. I was like, this bloke is so bloody awesome. I've got to go watch his film. And obviously I'd seen Iron Man at that point and those type of movies. But I think a point that I was actually thinking a little bit about this before we started. And I thought, you know what? He is the one who's responsible for bringing the whole galaxy to Earth. He's the reason. He's basically the reason.
He brought the cosmic.
He's the reason Loki came. He's the reason Thanos had a fascination with Earth. He's the reason for a lot of things.
The cosmic element.
He's basically he brought space to Earth. That's the way I see it. Yeah, big impact. That's my initial opinion. Yes.
It definitely opened the door for other movies that we would now say, like without any case of argument, are better than this movie in the MCU. We're talking. Yeah, right here, Men in Black. We're talking. We're talking like Guardians, right? Like we're talking Thor Ragnarok. We're talking Infinity War. Like
and coming off like Iron Man and Hulk. Like
I think it's one thing to kind of go like obviously I just said to the boys before we got on, like I haven't watched this movie since it came out in 2011, and I rewatched it today. And like obviously it's not making my top 5 in the MCU. Like we can get off that train for a second. But I remember watching this in the cinema, and I just remember being blown away because it was like the cosmic elements that it brought. Like the first time for many of us we'd ever seen things like Mjolnir and the Bifrost and stuff like that. So yeah, I just think it was for that element. Like I've got a lot of issues and things that I would have liked to see more in it, and maybe we can talk about that later. But overall, like I think I've got to go back to like, 17-year-old us when we watched it and kind of go like, I liked it. So
I think too, it was the first movie, well, for me personally, to come into the scene off the MCU hype train. Like all the other movies prior, we still weren't completely aware of what the MCU was or what they were setting up for. Heck, we knew there was an Avengers coming, but that was 3 years before this movie. So we're just like, what's going to happen? But then you get that end credit scene in Iron Man with Mjolnir, and then they're like, Thor's coming in, and you're like, okay, this movie is something to look forward to.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. With I think he's definitely. I agree with Hansy in terms of it's not top 5. But I feel every single Marvel movie is essential to the storyline, but yeah, it's definitely not. But you know what? Chris Hemsworth himself was not happy with these movies, so how the hell do you expect us to be happy with them? You know what I mean?
I reckon it was cool seeing actual superpowers for the first time.
Yeah. Well, we said it.
It had all been created, but actually seeing some proper godly powers was cool.
I felt like, I've said this before, you guys remember around this time that this was around the time of the 300 craze? Like around that old sword and sandal. Like the coolest thing I reckon at this time was the idea of men with swords and shields just fighting against each other.
Yeah.
And I felt like, I remember when I first saw the trailer to this movie, and I was like, this is a combination of sci-fi action, superheroism, and that whole sword and sandal aspect. Like even when you see in the trailer, like Heimdall breaking out of the ice with his sword and looking like I'm about to take on some guys, I was like, this is an interesting combination of the genre, because my only real proper exposure to the idea of Thor was the sequel to The Mask, The Son of the Mask, which unfortunately is not a very good reference point when it comes to these sort of characters.
That's a brilliant movie. That's a brilliant movie, Daddy.
That was all based around.
I love those two movies. They're the best.
Yeah,
the first one's great. Yeah.
Thor did well to introduce another way, another way of introducing Norse mythology. Like, the only thing I can think of before that is, like you said, The Mask, which was. It was just that movie was just. It was
The Son of the Mask. The Son of the Mask.
Okay, Jim Carrey's one was great.
Yeah.
But that second one, it actually had Loki and Odin in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Maybe Jim Carrey should have been Loki.
Oh wow! Okay.
Maybe like a '90s Jim Carrey. I can see that. Yeah.
Actually, we were talking
like a
about
real Ace Ventura Jim Carrey.
Well, with his hair now, he could be Thor.
Are you talking about Jim Carrey as the Riddler? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah.
Because like in The
Go back
Mask,
to David talking about exposing himself to Thor. That's all I really heard.
Exposing himself to Thor.
the Hulk did it in Ragnarok, and
It's not upset. I'm kind of
Spoilers, so you don't.
Yeah. Do you know what I found funny too? Is I guess the end credit scene in Thor was directed by Joss Whedon. The guy who,
setting up. For,
I didn't know that until like the other day. I was just looking up some
Avengers.
facts. I was like, that's pretty.
In the movie is Kenneth Branagh, Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
Which was interesting.
And the guy that wrote the comics made a cameo in the film too.
Which one?
Oh, Stan
Oh,
Lee.
right.
No. Well, obviously, but his name was
Got him.
No, the actual Thor creator.
No, he's there's a bloke named Walt Simpson or Walt Simonson or something.
Disney?
Who wrote some of the Thor comics.
Yeah. Well,
And
what
he's in the movie
what was his
somewhere.
cameo?
Some old. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. He's like some old guy just randomly. I think he's next to Lady Sif. He's just one of the blokes laughing and looking at the TV. I don't know. He's been, I don't know. It's like for a really brief moment, but it was just like a really cool little cameo, I guess.
I think it's worth noting that none of us deserved Idris Elba in this movie. Like, I know that we
Black Superman.
Like, I know that maybe it's a soft spot because of the whole Endgame spoilers. Thanos will pay for that moment situation, but I genuinely, there are certain characters in this movie for me that make the movie, and like, unfortunately, Chris Hemsworth isn't one of them, and I don't know if we want to get into that. As much as I think he's great, like, don't get me wrong, I actually think there are certain actors in this movie or certain portrayals that make the movie for me. One of them, which not for the reasons that we've noted, is behind Mark Malika right now in the video, is Darcy. I actually, like, unpopular opinion, I actually think that she was actually good in this movie.
I just realised that.
I actually think she provided some comedic relief. I think
how could you miss it?
It's pretty obvious. I think Anthony Hopkins is really good. Like, I genuinely think his casting is like, and you got to imagine, like, I know that we discussed. I mean, I wasn't in the podcast, but you guys discussed the whole Robert Downey Jr. Casting choice in Iron Man and how big of a deal that was. Yeah. But then, like, I mean, Edward Norton, I don't know how much you said of it in Hulk. It's big, but it's not that big. Yeah. But the casting for this and getting Anthony Hopkins is a pretty big deal. I think it is anyway. And Idris Elba is a pretty big deal. Like, to get him has those smaller characters where I think in movies they kind of don't, sometimes in superhero movies they don't care about those side characters as much. That is casting wise, but
They cast the whole thing pretty well. Like, as a whole. Like, forget if you like Natalie Portman as Jane Foster or not. But, like, they cast it all pretty well. Like, even his Warriors 3 or whatever they're called.
Yeah,
they all pretty match themselves in the comics pretty well.
Volstagg was the Punisher.
Ray Stevenson.
in Punisher Warzone, which is interesting.
I think what makes me appreciate Chris Hemsworth so much more is the fact that Tom Hiddleston could have been Thor.
Yeah,
and it would not have worked.
No.
So I'm so glad they went with Chris Hemsworth.
And that's why Loki works, because Loki's character is someone who wants to be Thor.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about it that way, actually. Yeah.
There was like an interview. Hiddleston was saying that Disney, when they're casting these big roles, they like to choose people who don't necessarily have big movies already, like because they don't want them to be associated with something already.
Yeah.
Like in a way, it's good for the actor, but when it comes to future movies, like it becomes a bit of a challenge because now they're associated with their role in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Extras.
What do we think about the actual storyline?
It was a good intro. I liked it. It was the first time they did, like I said, they introduced, like as we were all saying, they introduced cosmic and gods, but then they did the whole unworthy thing. So they brought it down to human level as well. So
I found they're Asgardian and Norse mythology, but I found the way they talked, like all the proverbial kind of Shakespeare kind of talking, I find that more cheesy than Captain America 40's propaganda style talking.
Yeah, come on, bring it.
I don't know about you guys, but like stuff like I don't know, a king doesn't seek out war, but he's always ready for battle. Stuff like that. Like it's good, but I don't know. For me, it was a bit cheesy.
He must always be ready for it. Jesus, Robin, come on, man.
It was a good line actually, and I think that's something they kind of didn't really touch on much in the movie. But I guess the focus was more on Thor's worthiness, which was, I got to say, it's carried out throughout the whole MCU like very well up until Endgame.
Yeah,
even now.
Sure.
Kind of like constantly seeking approval, not approval, but I guess constantly trying to live up to the standard that he set for himself. Really,
well, when you've got that much power, you want to make like the whole time you'd be thinking, "Am I worthy of having it?" So it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't realize till I rewatched it today. The scene with him trying to pick up Mjolnir in the crash scene when there's like Agent Coulson, and we first get introduced to Hawkeye, which is another interesting thing we can talk about.
Yeah.
When he can't pick it up, and there's that moment, and like it is a little bit drawn out, and there's like rain, and it's like so cliche.
It's very drawn out,
but it is impactful, and it does introduce the whole like, are you worthy? I'm not worthy situation. And I think maybe for me, when I was reflecting on it, one of the scenes that I liked in Endgame, based on Thor, but didn't love in Endgame, was when he went back to go to Asgard and he spoke to his mum. And obviously those are excerpts straight from Thor: The Dark World, which, if we get to reviewing that or not, is one of the worst movies in the MCU. And I don't know if anyone agrees with me or not. It's terrible. So I don't know. Like for me, it's like almost like if his mother, and look, there's not enough time for it in this movie anyway. But if his mother had died in this movie, like it might have meant something. And I don't know. If I could just get rid of Thor: The Dark World altogether, I would definitely get rid of it. But
I think she's another character though, Frida, her name in the movie, that had potential for more, but kind of was a bit wasted.
She wasn't in much of the movie when you think about it.
No,
not at all.
She had really good dynamic. It seems like her and Loki were close.
I'd be interested to know if in the Loki TV show they explore that a little more, because I don't know where they're going to go with it. I don't know if there's going to be elements like, because we know in Endgame he had that jump, and at that point, which is what, Avengers 2012, Frida was still alive, correct? When she went back. When he went back. So it'd be interested to know if we could get some of that relationship, because you're right. That one scene when Odin was in the Odin sleep and they were talking to each other, they actually had a really good connection. So,
well, you know what? I want to explore the sexual tension between them.
Between
they're really close to each other.
The old Freudian slip.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've got Freud joining us.
There were weird. Like, are you talking about?
It together and Thor come in room for, you know what I mean?
Wait, who are you talking about? Thor.
Yeah, what are we talking about? That's what...
Thor and Frida.
Loki and Frida.
Oh, Loki. Because I thought there was
not actually her son. Maybe they're like cleaning this all out together.
Gross.
You watch too much Game of Thrones, Grant. That's your problem.
I think the problem is I haven't watched Game of Thrones and I'm still thinking of it.
It only leads to disappointment.
It'd be funny. It'd be interesting to explore, okay?
You can do that in your own
There are currently no Reddit pages on it, but I'm thinking.
You should write one up.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Think about it, yeah. She's like been cleaning. She's obviously fallen in love with, like, you know, the adopted son.
Are we actually indulging this?
How far are you taking this?
Like, she's obviously not getting it from Odin. She's upset because he's always going for these big naps. And so she's like, "Let's take over the kingdom," and then Thor come and ruins it all. She acted all, "I love you. I'm sorry."
I don't think that's in any of the comic book lines, Grant.
But
maybe not the comic book ones, but Norse mythology. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Look, it's definitely an area of concern that we need to look at, but we'll put it under the table for now. We'll talk about it later.
Oh my gosh. Did you guys find the humor, like scenes of humor, were a bit more prominent in this movie? Like, I don't want to say they were more forced in this one in comparison to the other ones, but they were a lot more obvious. Like Marvel at this point was trying to cater to more audiences, so the humor scenes did stand out a bit more in comparison to previous movies.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
More forced laughs.
But like, you got to think about it. I mean, obviously, we love like here on this show, if I want to call it, we do love on this show. We do love Iron Man. Like, I think we all love Iron Man, but and Hulk and whatever. But this was probably the first MCU movie that was very marketable, like to children. Like this, you got to imagine what this would have been like. Like, is in cosmic superheroes. You elements of how much they can market things like Star Wars and stuff like that, and then you've got this as Thor, and like imagine what the market ability would have been to do that. And so by them making it a little bit not kiddie, but the humor was very clear and very like on the nose. It like I can see why they did it, if that makes sense.
But even the simple little things like him getting hit by the car a couple times and getting tasered and getting stabbed getting needled in the bum, like those type of things. They're quite cheesy, but they were an easy laugh. I understand.
But what about the pet shop scene? I found that was pretty smart.
Yeah, when he went to the horse there.
Yeah. I think
that goes back to Robin's point about the Shakespeare language.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as well. Like they've found humor in the fact that he speaks like that, and they've drawn off that.
Yeah, but even like the fact you walk into a pet shop, you're like, I need a horse. Like just the whole. I think that worked well. The whole. I'm not usually like the fish out of water aspect can either break a movie or make a movie. There were times I felt that worked for Thor and not made him too cheesy in those sort of scenes. That related to constantly was different, but yeah.
No,
that related to every.
Sorry, Greg?
That basically related to every drunk guy at 3 a.m. in the morning.
So need a horse.
Yeah.
This drink, basically. I like it.
But as I said, what I was going to make a point of
another.
Thor was quite. That sounds silly, but he was the first like macho man sort of one. Like
he was. This Thor was more like in the cartoon Earth's Mightiest Heroes. He was more like that Thor, where he just talks. Like an Asgardian noble, like very ignorant and just he doesn't mean to be funny, but he just comes off that way.
I don't think he had in the first two films. I don't think there was much depth to his character at all.
Yeah,
I think it wasn't until Ragnarok where you actually found depth and actually found something in it. Before it was just he was funny because he spoke that way and that was it.
But it's interesting.
Like what he said wouldn't be funny if you spoke it normally. That's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah, no depth to his character in the first movie at all. That's just harsh for me to say because I'm in love with him. But yeah,
what were you saying, David?
I was saying like we were talking before about like the character's growth and all that, but I see it more as, and I don't know if this was intentional, but this film all the way to Ragnarok is more the story of Thor learning that his journey is not linear, that his journey is not this mythic legend that he's supposed to follow. Like we see here, he's supposed to in the beginning of the film inherit Asgard, be the king of Asgard, and rule the 7 or 9 realms for however long. And we get to Thor Ragnarok. It's like Asgard's not a place; it's a people. And even then, like his role as a king is shaped so differently, and his role as a person is shaped so differently. So whether they intended or not, I see this more than just about humbling himself, but him showing him life is not just this linear track you're supposed to follow. It's not this legend you're supposed to live up to.
Yeah.
It's about you learning about whatever life throws at you to adapt to that and still be who you're meant to be.
That's I think you talked about it in one of the other podcasts, how Thor, like what's one good aspect of it, I will say in the storyline, he's different to the other heroes in that the other heroes, they rise to their position of power. So the opposite, he's already powerful, but he gets humbled. He gets taken down to like a very weak position as a man on Earth.
Yeah.
And there's like a huge lesson there, I guess, like in regards to what makes a person worthy. And, you know, before worthiness to him was like pride and vanity. He was all about himself, essentially. Like there was a scene, his dad, Odin calls him out and he's like, you can't even protect your friends or something. What makes you think you're going to be able to protect the kingdom? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like he's all just for the glory. He didn't see much past himself, but like, I guess after everything that happened, he did learn that it's more than like about his own glory. It's about other people being selfless, which is a theme that carries on for everyone in the MCU, it seems.
Yeah, and what I find interesting, like just pulling a quote from Ragnarok, was when, you know, when he has that flashback of Odin, he says, "I'm not as strong as you," and Odin just walks away and goes, "No, you're stronger." And the fact, like, I take that more than just as a takeaway line. I take that as Odin always knew who Thor was. He always knew what he was about, but he knew that, like you said, he needed to be tested. He needed to be changed. He needed to be something more than what he was.
Yeah. Can I just say, like, there's a pretty, like, the Easter egg in this, Natalie Portman gives him a shirt and it says Donald Blake.
Yeah.
And in the comics, the origin is like, Odin, there's this guy named Donald Blake, and he just has this ability to be able to turn into Thor. But turns out, Odin just sent him to Earth, and he was Thor the whole time. He just made him lose his memory and just, like, try to learn that lesson as a man.
Yeah, I think Blake's supposed to be like an avatar or something.
Yeah. So, like, it was Thor the whole time, but this degree of, like, making him lose his memory is even more extreme in the comics. But, you know, the movie did it a bit more, well, in a way that's better suited to the movie universe. And
the movie felt rushed in general. I don't think they had the time to go through the whole memory loss thing. Like, in my opinion, Thor felt rushed. Very well rushed. That's just me personally.
The part of the movie at the beginning when they went to the realm with the frost giants, what's it called? Is it called
Jotunheim?
Lost it, Jotunheim. And they versed the frost giants and all that. Like that element of it, and then the bit where they showed Asgard, to me, is the best part of the film. Which is interesting because he gets sent to Earth and does a whole, you know, engages in the most forgettable romance in the MCU up to date. With Natalie Portman, with Natalie Portman come on the podcast, she sucked. But like, I would have liked to see, and I think the directors knew that, or like whoever, MCU, Josh Whedon, Kevin Feige, or whoever it is, and we get more of that in Thor: The Dark World. It just sucks, which is like terrible. So, but like, I would have liked to see more of Asgard in this movie. Like, if that makes sense, because those elements where they introduced that, I remember watching it. Like when I was like,
it was cool,
and it was amazing. Like to see all of that. Like I remember us boys in school.
Literally cool. Yeah.
Yeah, trying to quote all the 9 realms like off by heart. Like all these different things. Yeah, like we're just trying to quote them all, and it's like that impacted us in a certain way. So obviously, like it was pretty good at the time. Yeah. But surely, like I don't know if there is. Is there anyone on this podcast that has Thor, like the original Thor, in their top 10 MCU?
No.
I'd be shocked if you did. But.
No.
That's strange.
But I did watch it recently.
I reckon
it's pretty cool.
I reckon I might.
Wow.
Really? Just because of the escalation to the cosmic...
How do you have room for Thor in your top 10?
Well, I've got the 3 Avengers.
How don't you?
Like as in like there's 4 though. Avengers. Do you mean are you including Endgame and Infinity War as one movie?
As one.
No, sorry, there are 4. So all of them. So first one.
Are you putting Age of Ultron in your top 10? Wow. Okay,
sorry. I like Ultron. Ultron's cool.
Hey, it's your personal opinion, bro.
And then I'd throw in Strange and Black Panther.
And then the 2 Ant-Man movies, don't forget those.
When Ragnarok.
Iron Man 3.
Yeah, so you got Ragnarok, that's 7.
And I reckon I'd throw Thor in there.
Really?
And what about Guardians? You got Guardians in there too?
which one are we up? Guardians 2 was his dad, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd throw Guardians 1, not 2.
Okay, that's fair. That one I agree with. So why Thor? Like what appeals to you?
I like the cosmic element.
Okay,
I just
fair enough.
It's the little boy in all of us. We all like freaking lightning being shot out of a god's hand. Like, it's just cool seeing powers.
Yeah,
The rest of them are human. Like,
this is like completely off track. Sorry, Grant. 1 second.
Before Endgame, no.
Okay.
After Endgame, yes. After Endgame, I would have put Thor in my top 10.
Okay.
Because after Endgame, I really just wanted to go back and watch where it all started, where it was really peaceful time. And we had no idea what was going to happen. It's just less escalation. It's like, so peaceful to watch.
Well, actually, yeah, the first time, like I said, it was on that MCU hype train. But I do find now, I will say, even Avengers 1, there are aspects of it that I find it's overrated.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you.
I reckon we can agree that, like, the MCU they're not masterpieces.
Yeah.
Like, when it's proper cinematography, they're not all amazing.
Why are we doing
movies? But why
are we doing this podcast?
We just undermined our whole podcast.
No, but like, you can't throw them up there. You can't throw them up there with like Lord of the Rings, The Godfathers, all of those beast movies. You can't put them up there with them.
What are you going to say, Caleb?
I was just going to say, like, yeah, we can agree there's holes in Avengers, the first one, but you got to go back to when it came out. Like, obviously I know that for us, like, Endgame was crazy and whatever, and it meant a lot to us, and we were so hyped for it. But like Avengers, the first one, 2012, like there hadn't been anything like that before, really. Like, so. Like, I get it. We watch it now and we're like, wow, where's Thanos? Like, this isn't that cool. But, like, at the time, we walked out of the movie hyped. Like mega hyped. So you got to look at it from that perspective. Anyway, we are discussing Thor, so I didn't mean to tangent anybody. I just wanted to know if anyone's top 10 had Thor in it, that's all.
Well, one more tangent. Malika said, like, the MCU may not rank with the, like, top movies of, like, what's considered like just masterpieces, but
Fast and Furious, Mark.
But
nah, that went downhill real quick after the first two.
We did say in Iron Man that the MCU has set a standard for superhero movies, like, and it's drawn in fans that weren't really superhero fans.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%.
So they do have a place in the movie world.
Sorry, Grant.
You go.
No, you go. No,
I just want to put it out there that Loki single-handedly saved this film. He's the only reason. He for me is the reason I'll put it in my top 10. Just purely because I remember being at school and
David.
the lines you would want to reenact were Loki's lines.
David should have gone first, I think.
Yeah, I reckon. I got a feeling it's going to be a bit of but I just think that I remember quoting it at school. Mostly Loki's lines were the ones you'd be quoting, and we used to comment on the acting and how good it was. I reckon him as the villain, without him as a villain, Thor would have been like a Justice League movie, basically.
Ooh. What were you going to say, David?
I was just going to say, okay, look, I like Loki. I think he's a good villain, but this may just be me through the years of just interacting with many Loki fans. I do feel over the years he has been a bit okay. I do feel he has been a bit overrated. I still think he's a good villain, but people have like put him up to like Heath Ledger's Joker, as in like whenever there's a MCU villain that comes out, it's like, oh, well, he's not a Loki. He's not she's not a Loki. And then I'm just like, even though I think Loki's a great character and has a very interesting story arc, I do kind of feel I don't know.
We might as well talk
Loki. Loki has far better hair.
Listen, Grant.
Complexion, okay? Let's go there. All right.
In my opinion, Loki got elevated as a villain because of the success and no, that decreased him as a villain. Because of the success and the fame and the popularity of Avengers. Like, I genuinely think that if they didn't pick him to be the main guy, the main villain, obviously, like we know now, working for Thanos and all that sort of stuff, but he's the face of the movie as a villain. I think that that pushes him up an element in people's opinions, whether we disagree with that or not. I think that if he had just been in Thor, like, we wouldn't be talking about it the same way.
He's the first Avengers villain. That's why you're exactly right. 100%.
Which look,
no, as a villain, I don't. He's a trickster. I don't put him up as evil. He's not a villain. So far, the only villain is Red Skull.
That's where the conflict comes in, because he's supposed to be a villain, but then
he's a trickster. Nothing he does is purely evil.
MCU's placed him in a way where we sympathize with the guy.
He's the Edward Cullen of the MCU universe, as in he's kind of like he's the gothic, tragic guy that a lot of the female fans
you're getting real worked up
because they're like, oh, he's damaged, I can fix it.
Did you just bring that name here?
Like,
I'm gonna have to edit that out.
David, can I ask?
Wrong you to reject that.
Are you comparing Loki to Tobey Maguire from Spider-Man 3? Is that what you've just done? Is that scene where he's got the venom?
When he's dancing.
He's walking down the street.
No, he's got the yeah.
I do think Tom Hiddleston could have done that scene better, but I do see.
I agree with that. I agree.
I'll be sure to let him know.
I did. Okay, yeah. It's hard to place him as a villain, but the elements of him as a villain work well in that he's competing with Thor. He's got his own issue of worthiness as well. But that whole aspect of causing us to sympathize with him, I think that's what draws us in, is that we got a different type of, I don't know if it's different compared to whatever villains we've had before, but like, because we sympathize with him, we like him more, and we just think, okay, maybe there's more to bad guys than just being evil. And I will say, even though the Dark World was
garbage,
and but there was that scene in it where Loki dies. I know there's the ongoing joke that Loki's dead, but is he really ever dead? Because he always comes back.
It's not a joke; it's a fact.
But in the Dark World,
like
that
Optimus
scene,
Prime.
I thought that was like his death in that scene. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah,
even though we're not talking about the Dark World, but I think that just goes to show like the kind of rep that Loki has, because we're so
but I've never ever wanted, I guess, not a villain, because Mark makes a good point, but I know he's not a villain because the whole 20 whatever movies, I wanted him to come good the whole time, and I've never rooted for a villain to come good.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? The whole time on
Red Skull.
Please come good. Please come good. You know, not Red Skull.
What about
Red Skull, as we discussed, he went to Dementor Land and come back flying. So we're not going to talk about that.
He went so far, he came back as another actor. That's what happened.
All right. The only way they're going to kill Red Skull is if they bring Harry Potter into the MCU. All right. Expecto Patronum his ass. All right.
Loki did bring in one of my favorite lines. I don't even know if it counts as a line, where he's like, "Father," and Odin's like, "No!"
We used to do that at school. Like, if I used to call even Robert, I'd go, Robert, go, hey!
Best line in the whole movie, hands down.
And this movie was so much more exciting than Year 11 biology. I think that's why we loved it so much.
True.
We used to quote the shit out of Avengers, Thor, and all that. Like, you know, besides the wand battles, we're not going to talk about them, but yeah.
What are you going to say, David?
The scene, I will say, is the scene between Loki and Odin in the chamber where they got all the stuff. Oh, it's Odin's chamber, yeah.
The chamber of Easter eggs.
Yeah, the chamber of Easter eggs. That was a very powerful scene. And I don't know if that's a credit to Kenneth Branagh's directing or the actors, but I will say that is definitely one of my favorite scenes in the MCU, because it does.
I just think, I agree, but if you turn the volume off, it looks like Odin just got really bored and fell asleep.
It's about to fall asleep, but so
yeah, and we did say Anthony Hopkins as Odin was really good. He portrays that father role really well. As a father to guys who are essentially gods, his wisdom, the way he conveys it. He's one of the ones where his proverbial lines in Shakespeare talking doesn't bother me, because like,
it works. Yeah,
I'm convinced.
He's an ancient character.
He doesn't really have any beside the flashback at the start of the movie where you see him battling against the Frost Giants. He doesn't really have any scenes where he's like as powerful as Thor. But the whole movie, you're in your head like he's more powerful than Thor. Like, that's and that's Anthony Hopkins acting, which I think adds added to that. As a side note, I watched for the first time on Netflix Fracture with Anthony Hopkins and Ryan Gosling. If anyone wants to check that out, it's a good movie.
So it's worth watching.
Yeah, it's actually really good. It's like about him committing a crime. Ryan Gosling's like a young lawyer. Anyway, it's worth watching. Anyway, yeah, check it out. Don't take a word for it, David. If it sucks, I'm sorry, but don't.
Go on, chance. Go on
to another podcast.
Yeah, sorry. Go.
You see, it's the one scene where you do see his power is when he just strips Thor of his power.
Yeah, true.
And you go, we knew he was powerful, but wow, he actually is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Like you see that massive gap that Odin has from his sons.
But
Chance doesn't agree.
Yeah, Chance is like, no, I'm out, man.
I do, but yeah.
Power.
But, you know, he strips Thor of his power, but then Loki basically defeats him by yelling at him. So, but I think going back to that scene that Dave was talking about, I do agree that it's probably one of the most powerful scenes. You can tell that Loki's been waiting to say that for so long.
Wait, which
that's built up like 30 years now. He's maybe.
Oh, like to get Thor cast out.
The scene where he yells at Odin that you're talking about, David.
Yeah.
He's been waiting like 1,500 years.
Chamber of Easter eggs. Yeah.
And that's why I think it is the most powerful scene, because you can tell that's been on his chest for a long time.
Yeah, I think that one.
Yeah.
And yeah, when he casts out Thor, like when he was casting out Thor, I felt like
real happy about that.
I felt like a kid getting like a sibling just watching his brothers get told off. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, am I in trouble as well?
After you done the wrong thing. But I think the reason I know straight up that Thor isn't as good as, say, Iron Man is I can talk for half an hour about Iron Man without talking about the villain, but you can't talk about Thor without talking about Loki.
Yeah,
because that's why I think that without Loki, Thor wasn't really much at first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris Hemsworth then. At this point, his Thor was, what's the word? Artificial. Like it was that Asgardian Thor, and I think Grant said he lacked some depth. But like the themes came across pretty well. But did you think his acting? I don't know. What did you guys think?
It was a bit robotic.
Yeah, so it was like getting used to the role.
I think I was used to him from Home and Away, so to see him in this role...
We don't speak about that here, man. That's not a show we speak about.
Yeah, we all had our time, right? We all had our time.
I just think that it's the one and only time you see him in his helmet as well. I think they scrapped that idea pretty quickly by the looks of it. They're like, that's cool, but...
Yeah, it's
like,
too heavy.
It was almost too cheesy. It was like,
I think it was they bring it back in Ragnarok, where he's in the arena and he just gets that quick helmet.
Partial,
quick helmet,
yeah. It's more like cyberpunk helmet rather than...
So,
yeah.
What did you think, David, about the way Hemsworth delivered Thor?
I think because I know, as we know, Chris Hemsworth, he's an Aussie and all that, and him to bring on this accent, to be able to speak a certain way. At the time, I compared it a lot to, say, Russell Crowe as Maximus in Gladiator, to be able to give us a character that feels out of this world, that feels different, So at the time, for me, it worked. But I'd say by the Thor: The Dark World and by Age of Ultron, it felt overdone. So at this point, I was like, all right, it makes sense. It works for this movie. We're still getting used to the character. We're still trying to figure out who he is. But by that time, it was like, oh, look at me. I'm from Asgard. I can't do the accent, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah.
Well done.
But the directors would have told him, you have to speak like an almighty god. You have to speak as if you're not from here.
He's not going to change his accent after being on Earth for 3 years when he's spoken like that for 1,000 years.
Yeah. But that's why, once again, once you hit Ragnarok, everything changes. So
his acting evolved well.
But in saying that, I think the elements of other. I mean, I know they don't talk different necessarily. Well, they do. We get I Am Groot. We get like when you bring more cosmic characters into the mix, the quirkiness of what he brings in comparison to Iron Man, Bruce Banner, like Steve Rogers, Black Widow, Hawkeye. Like
you're dying to say Steve Rogers.
Like Captain America, Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
It stands out way more because it's like he's the only cosmic element that's there.
Yeah.
That voice. Whereas when you bring more characters into it, like now you watch Endgame and you don't. I mean, I don't know. I haven't done a side by side of like Thor 1 with Endgame and him speaking, but I'd say it's pretty similar. The way he speaks and whatever.
Well, look at Thanos and Drax, like they got unique voices too.
So it's just like I think when you add all these different elements, you don't pinpoint it as much as like an issue. Whereas in this movie, maybe that's what they were going for. Like when you juxtapose it to Natalie Portman, to all those people, you kind of want it to stand out. I don't know. Yeah.
It's just such a difference between when you first watched it and now. That's the thing.
Yeah.
When you first watched it, it was wow. Now it's.
Do you reckon the Frost Giants were wasted?
Look, that fight at the beginning, it was cool, but there is some aspects of it I thought were pointless. Like I know they were trying to show off, but like that whole scene was supposed to show that war wasn't the answer. So in a way, it was good that it showed it was pointless. The Frost Giants were also smaller than I remember them being.
I think in that first battle, they're tiny. Like, they're just people size. Like, they're not giants.
Except for the king. I think
Laufey. He's big.
Yeah.
Do you reckon they were necessary?
Well, I think they were necessary for Loki. Exactly what I was going to say. I think that's the only
because
reason.
Loki. Mark made the point. Loki isn't a villain. They needed a villain to be a villain. So Laufey was Loki's villain, like Loki's puppet, basically. So they needed Loki to have someone to. Loki goes, I need someone to blame. So without him, Loki had no one to blame. So I think he was necessary, but underused.
And it expands the world and shows what it would have been like on the other realms.
We talked about how the Howling Commandos were kind of in Captain America, like almost not necessary. What did you guys think of the Warriors 3 and Lady Sif?
I think it was better. My opinion is it was more. That's just and I love Captain America, obviously, but I think that there was more reason for them to be in this movie than there was for the Howling Commandos. Like in the podcast, I said my thoughts on the Howling Commandos, and that you probably, for the most part, could have had that movie without the Howling Commandos. Whereas I think in this movie they added to it.
Okay. Yeah.
I think they were a way to ground Thor's character too. Like, Thor is the god, but even gods need companions, even gods need warriors. There was a strong message that no one really does it on their own.
Yeah. Well, that scene where they
like
come. You're welcome. When they come to Earth and they're knocking on the window, actually, like, it was funny, but I thought it was like, that's nice.
That was.
Don't they kill him off? Which movie is it? They kill him off
Ragnarok really quickly.
Oh man,
there's like no emotion to them. Like, they just die. You're not connected to it in any way.
Well, the Jackie Chan guy lasts the longest, so we're all good there.
No.
But she fully gives this big. He gives this big speech out, and he's like, "Whoever you are."
The Jackie Chan guy.
You actually do the accent. But I thought the Dark World, similar to Thor, the same issue is a lot of these characters just felt like, they just kept repeating what they were doing and didn't really have any character depth. It's like even the character Lady Sif, I really liked her in this movie, but by the Thor Dark World, I was like, what are you doing with this character? So by the time we hit Thor Ragnarok and they killed off all the characters, I was like, great, because they're basically dead weight at this point.
Well,
so
they wanted to link Lady Sif with Thor. I think they wanted that to be a bit of a
comic line.
Love triangle, but it just never happened.
It's like in the comics.
Yeah, but they did it weird, like a high school thing.
She actually, in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., goes back to Earth.
What happened to Lady Sif?
But is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. even canon now?
What happened to Lady Sif?
Yeah, I think it is.
We don't.
I think it was. I don't know if the new parts.
I don't remember her in Ragnarok at all.
She was not in Ragnarok. I don't know where she is.
No.
It seems like Lady Sif was the first stereotypical feminist character of the MCU. Like, before we get, I'm not meaning that in a negative way.
No, it's a good point.
It's like,
Do you
before we
hate
get...
women?
Hey, Natalie Portman, come on the show. I hate you.
Oh shit!
I thought Peggy Carter was.
Yeah, but that's after this, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
This is going to be
sorry.
the first controversial podcast.
Sorry, but yeah.
Look, I'm saying, like, there's a line at the start of the movie where he's going through all of his before they go into the Frost Giants, and he's like, I helped you with this, and I helped you with that, and then he's like to Lady Civ, who
I
championed
did.
you.
Yeah.
And she's like, I did, and he's like, yes, I guess you did. Blah, blah, blah. And it's like feminist. And then we get Captain Marvel, and that's where they came from. So
I think they made her like that because obviously Jane Foster was very dependent, and I think she was meant to be independent. So two very different women, but Thor obviously fell for the dependent one. And as I said, I don't know where they were going to ever go with that love triangle. I really wanted to see that love triangle turn into a bit of a bitch fight. I really did.
It was probably just a marketing ploy.
Let's be honest. I really wanted to see them like.
Grant, I wish you directed this movie because your movie sounds very interesting.
If I directed this movie, it'd be like a galactic episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
How is Natalie Portman?
Odin would become a woman.
How is Portman going to go up against Lady Sif?
Yeah,
Sorry?
sure.
How is a human going to go up against Lady Sif?
No, I mean, more like
science.
She becomes Lady Thor.
Science and magic.
She's not
they're
Lady
the
Thor
same.
then.
more like a squabble.
They're one and the same.
No physical touch. More like
Physical touch.
Well,
That's another version of Thor, Grant.
I think it was explored pretty well, like as to why Thor liked Jane. In the cartoons, like there's a bit where because Jane's just like some random paramedic, and he's like, "You're just a weak, tiny human or something. Why would you go out and risk your life?" And then she's like, "Oh, it's because of my job." And like Thor respected that because she doesn't really have power, but she chooses to do
great things.
Yeah, but
So
like
she's the John McClane of the MCU.
John McClane.
Maybe that's why Mjolnir finds her worthy.
So she's the Captain America of women, basically.
Wow.
No great power.
We're throwing some big things around.
Wouldn't that be Peggy Carter?
How is Thor triggered on this?
You know what? This whole podcast is reminding me that the first Thor movie wasn't that great. I'm really sorry.
Was there
Please
anything?
use that as a soundbite? Just use that bit as a soundbite.
I think
It's on
we
podcast.
mentioned
It's just reminded me.
gone through nearly every single MCU character and not even barely touched on Mr. Abman.
Was wait, did any of us actually like Natalie Portman in this? Jane Foster's in this? Any aspects of her that were good?
Well, I'm gonna swing this to Mark. I'm gonna delegate this.
Look, if we go physical appearance-wise, no complaints. But I haven't watched it in so long. I can't actually remember
I think
her role properly.
I had
The only thing that works about Natalie Portman is that she's a woman, and that fits the role.
Caleb, have you seen the movie? Have you seen the movie Jackie?
Has it got Natalie Portman in it?
Yes.
No, I haven't.
It's the one film that makes me think that Natalie Portman is actually a good actress. But
I don't
What
deny
about Star Wars fits, Padme?
I don't deny she's a good actor.
Didn't do
I
much
just
of
think
that,
I just think that it's like you shouldn't have. Don't be in this movie. Like it just.
I think she tried way too hard.
Yeah, I think her. Yeah, she actually. Yeah, that's a good point. She did try too hard, but I think her positives were that she seemed a bit proper motivated with her research and her science, and like her scenes where she was curious, like it just served to like she asked questions about Asgard and just it provided a bit more information about Asgard and stuff. So that aspect was alright, but it didn't serve much more else in the movie.
One thing I've noticed about her too, and this may please Mark or not please Mark, I don't know. Basically, I've noticed too, whether it's Thor 1, Thor 2, or whatever we're talking about at this point, when she kisses, she looks like she's eating him. I think that's horrible.
How closely have you watched
in
this
terms
movie?
of, okay, I'm actually being serious.
Yeah,
In
I
terms
actually
of
remember
movies,
that. Yeah.
When you have a woman kissing a man or a superhero, I know it sounds stupid, but the way they kiss really sticks with you. And if she's literally like eating
bro, I think
the
that's
face
stupid.
off, like becomes one of the aliens, basically.
Wow. I know what you mean.
And I don't
it's like
it.
In her kissing scene,
what I mean?
It's like 90% her energy and then 10% Thor's just like, help me.
It's interesting you say that, but
I feel like it would be any girl in front of Thor.
And then 40% Munya.
Which one?
That's true.
Yeah, David?
What are you going to say, Fitz?
I was going to say in Thor 2, they get Chris Hemsworth's actual wife to stand in for Natalie Portman when they kiss. So maybe, Grant, you're onto something.
Oh, maybe I am.
Is that true? Is that really?
Yeah,
that
they got his wife to be a stand-in at the end when they kiss. Yeah.
I feel like Thor, for me, if you want to do a summary, I think Thor could have been so much better looking at it now, but when we first watched it, it was amazing.
What, Chris Hemsworth or the movie?
Look, I don't want to get started on him because that's a whole other podcast. You know, that's just the upper body. So, we won't get started on his physical appearance because you know what?
There's not much to say other than that. It's fine.
I wanted to have the abs. I wanted to have the, you know, but then he went and got fat and just made me have a shortcut. I look like him already, so I'm pretty happy about it.
In saying that, Grant, because it was the first introduction to Cosmic, do you reckon they had to limit? Like they couldn't go too big or else they'd lose the fan base?
We mentioned the same thing with Iron Man. They didn't want to go too far. They just gave a little bit. You know what I mean? I do agree with you, Mark, 100%. I think if they showed, you're right, they showed everything at once. What's next? I think they knew they had Avengers coming too, so they're like, we don't want to give away too much because we want Avengers to be boom.
And you'd start losing people. Like if they introduced, I think Chans was talking about the 9 realms.
Yeah.
I reckon if they'd shown too much of that, it would have been like, well, yeah, you've lost me.
Did we get to see all 9 realms?
Bits and pieces. I think they introduced more in Dark World.
We've seen Jotunheim, obviously. Nidavellir, we saw that.
We saw Jackie Chan's planet.
Alf, I can't remember.
Hong Kong. A bunch of, what's that? Camel Hump noodles.
Do you reckon this is one of Stark's? Is this one of Stark's? The Destroyer. Did we think that was over the top, necessary?
No, I like the Destroyer. I thought that was cool.
It's cool, but you can tell they were trying to. The movie was being Disneyfied because, you don't really see anyone being vaporized.
Yeah,
it's just
true.
A beam, explosions, and people jumping.
They really didn't want. Yeah. They really didn't want Loki on Earth yet. They wanted to save that for Avengers, so they had to have something to send to Earth.
It is a cool. The Destroyer is pretty cool though.
I think it's more powerful than they made it out to be. But I guess once you got Thor up against it, it's a different story. But literally blasted one of those blokes into a building and he just smiled at him.
Asgardians didn't seem very strong. Even the bits of Thor just on Earth taking on people, he didn't seem all that tough.
But he lost his powers.
Yeah, but he
loses Thor powers, but he's still Asgardian.
Yeah, I thought he was still Asgardian.
He just took out the best shield agents.
Yeah, struggled though.
He lost his powers.
Yeah, but he lost his powers of being Thor.
He took out all those shield agents.
No, I just thought
I
expected better from Asgardian. You know, he just.
Dude, what's the point of losing his powers?
No, Fitz. He loses Mjolnir powers. He doesn't lose Asgardian strength.
For the movie, I think it fit perfectly well, but I feel like Asgardians are stronger than that. But
did you see Hansy's message? Anyone?
No, what do you say?
Sorry, had to jump off. Dog going crazy. Natalie Portman sucks. Okay, so we've established a few things. We've established that Natalie Portman sucks. We've established that, as I said before, Thor was a before. Get that one.
I already said that earlier. You missed it, bro.
Oh, gee, sorry, man. I'm going deaf in my old age.
Trying to steal my joke.
What about Phil Coulson?
Yeah, Shield. Shield was again. It was a big thing just in setting up for Avengers. So I think the amount they had in there was enough. the Hawkeye gimmick was a cool. It was cool for
that
fans.
was cool at the time because we hadn't seen Hawkeye yet. So to see Jeremy Renner up there with the bow and arrow was cool.
But
but would it have made any impact if it was a guy with a sniper aiming at him?
It was cheesy, but
what do you mean, like if it was just a random guy with a sniper?
Yeah, I felt like it would have been the same impact. I didn't really care about seeing Hawkeye there.
I got excited
because of the Hurt Locker and seeing Renner from that. That was more my excitement coming from that.
Yeah, doesn't maybe it's because I don't rate Hawkeye as a good superhero.
Yeah, well,
he just made it easier for them to introduce him into Avengers. Like you've already seen him here, now we can just bring him straight into Avengers. Don't have to worry about introducing him. Everyone's already gone and looked him up and studied him. Da 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 da.
He still hasn't really had a big role yet.
No.
He
was literally the first person we saw in Endgame.
Even that it was cool. It was good. It was limited, but.
I think there's a lot more they could do with him, to be honest.
Yeah, he's average.
Yeah, I think he's a good Hawkeye, but in regards to what he can do, like we got a lot of focus on Black Widow.
Yeah, true.
He's got a better backstory than he does.
But in terms of compared to other movies, like Thor,
everyone's just pairing.
Yeah, that's all right. In terms of other movies, how do you think Thor goes with Easter eggs? Was there enough Easter eggs, or was there not enough compared to other movies?
There was quite a bit. Like I said, the chamber of Easter eggs was the gauntlet was there. The damn gauntlet was it was a fake gauntlet, but like I'm sure fans would have picked up on that one.
Yeah, and it was like future Easter eggs or whatever.
You know what I found, but in the earlier films. The Easter eggs, I feel like the Easter eggs are more for the people that have read the comics. As the movies went on, I think they realised that we need to make these a little bit easier. Because
that's hardcore comic fans.
Yeah, the first few movies, if you're a hardcore comic fan, you pick up on a lot. I think as the movies went on, the Easter eggs became more apparent and a lot easier to figure out.
Yeah.
Because me personally, I've never read a Marvel comic. I don't even know. I read The Phantom once. I don't even know if that's a Marvel. I don't know what that is.
Phantom? I remember that.
Yeah, but literally, I think in terms of Easter eggs, going back now, I think, Jesus, man, like there's so many Easter eggs in this movie. It's incredible.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, I think that's Mark's point too about bringing the, what'd you say, cosmic element into it? Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to actually talk about the prominence of Mjolnir. Like that hammer, it's like, I don't know if it's comparable to Cap's shield, but it's such a big thing throughout the whole MCU. Like, in the same way that it's heavy, it holds big weight in the whole of the MCU, especially for Captain America, Thor, that aspect of worthiness.
But once again, it links back to, at first, it is Thor's hammer, but obviously after watching all the movies, now that hammer is so more significant because it gets destroyed.
That was a huge thing as well.
Watching it for the first time, it was cool. But now watching it back now, it's it's an icon. It's an iconic thing.
Yeah,
he just steals his own hammer pretty much when he goes back into one.
Yeah.
So basically, Captain America would have took that back. Yeah,
if he wanted to.
Well, you have to, because then you'd be stuffing up that timeline.
Here's a question:
Thor without a hammer.
I'm still would have died.
What makes a person worthy of Mjolnir?
I think no one knows the answer.
That's always the thing that's gotten to me. Like, what makes him special?
I think it's an ongoing answer.
Yeah.
I only ever asked that question when Hela destroyed it. I thought, what makes her so special that she can stop that hammer?
I think it's something to do with the fact that they're family. Like,
maybe.
She was next.
But then Loki couldn't lift it.
Yeah, but
Loki's
not family.
Oh, he's adopted.
He's adopted.
I'm pretty sure she's more powerful.
I don't know if you know, but Loki's actually adopted, man. Sorry to tell you.
Oh, mind blown. This isn't the Fast and the Furious.
The hair color doesn't give it away at all. You know what I mean?
No, there's a blue skin, that Avatar skin.
Yeah.
There is a fun fact that on the top of the hammer, it has ancient runes of script, and it says he who holds this hammer commands lightning and storm. So this was before Odin placed the whosoever if he be worthy.
So it's been tattooed already.
Well, just in regards to what kind of powers it has.
Made
tramp. A hammer tramp step.
You've been watching too much American Ink Store, mate. You need to come
here. Yeah, that's a bit true.
No, I do. Yeah, I understand.
So before Odin stamps it with the worthiness, was anyone able to wield the hammer?
I think so. I mean, I think it demanded a lot, someone with strength, obviously.
Yeah, made it guru.
Like, I don't think any of us could have wielded it before the spell.
I wonder if Stormbreaker is similar.
Yeah. Well, Cap picked that up straight up. Oh, but he was worthy at the time.
Oh, he picked up the hammer, not Stormbreaker.
No, he caught it though. And then Thor's like, no, you take the bigger one. No.
Yeah, they did the switch.
He did pick it up.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, you're right, yeah.
Actually, there's a bit where
He's
Thanos,
like, no.
Thanos
Big
even
one.
gets it.
Stormbreaker or Mjolnir?
He gets something. He like
Well,
catches it
Stormbreaker's a fill-in.
No,
It
but
has
see,
no
Stormbreaker-
worthiness on it.
Stormbreaker was still in Thor's hand when he had it.
Stormbreaker hadn't been enchanted by Odin either.
No, it was just a channel for Thor's lightning power.
It was made from a dying star.
I wonder, just going a little bit off track here, I wonder when they first introduced Groot, they knew he was going to be the handle for that hammer.
No way. There's no way.
Yeah, no
Like
way,
that would be massive, like foresight.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't think so. It was cool, but surely not.
Imagine if he could grow from the handle. You see a little head pop out and give you a heart attack. Is there anything we haven't touched on?
Selvig?
Who? Oh, the Eric.
Skarsgård, yeah.
Yeah. That family has way too much talent, just saying. Side note, the Skarsgård family.
Yeah,
Yeah, they are very, very talented.
And one of them was Tarzan at one point.
Yeah, and one of them is Floki on Vikings.
Floki?
Yeah. on Vikings.
Oh, right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was done well. I reckon he plays. It gets played well.
And he has key roles in Avengers and the Dark World. He was one of the things about the Dark World that I liked. You just see him in the Eric Selvig.
Oh yeah.
You see him with no pants in the nursing home or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I think he was limited. I think he's done what he can. Like I can't see him doing anything more.
Yeah.
But then they're bringing Darcy back in either WandaVision or something.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I guess there's always a chance. But yeah.
And then there's that he makes that reference to the gamma study and scientist in the movie.
Banner.
Yeah, he makes some reference to the scientist that was studying gamma rays or something.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, another Easter egg.
Yeah. Heimdall's evolved a lot over the last few movies. Like, you look at him here where he's got, like, his booming voice and all that. And then in Thor, the Dark World, and in Ragnarok, they make him more of a human-type character.
Yeah. Was Idris Elba big yet?
No, he was coming, I think he was coming off The Wire and, like, you know, more like, I don't know how to put it, similar to the Game of Thrones actors where they're just becoming, I would say, big now outside of Game of Thrones. He's probably one of those sort of actors.
Right.
Yeah, possible.
Might
be the next James Bond.
We talked about it ages ago, but like, I guess considering potential characters, do you reckon Boulder was? I guess he would have been treated like the Warriors 3 and Sif, but
there's a rumor Christian Bale might be playing him. It's
really?
A rumor. Yeah, he's one of the characters that he might be playing. So,
what is he? Best friend or half brother or something like that?
I think he's a half brother.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they're pretty close in Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Yeah, I remember.
But isn't he like?
The whole storyline.
Isn't he slightly evil, or am I remembering him wrong?
I
remember Loki pretending to be him.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah, but like it's the MCU. Like they make characters evil all the time. Like, well, like Alexander Pierce in The Winter Soldier. I'm pretty sure he's not a bad guy in the comics, but I could be wrong. Do you think? Okay, this one thing I will say because when they were like making Thor: The Dark World, they were talking about going for more of a Norse gritty type sort of a look, like make him look more like in the comics, like the Norse god, the Viking type feeling to it, rather than less like I think less science fiction, more ancient type feel to it. Do you think that would have ever worked, or it was best the route they went, basically going full science fiction, full like Flash Gordon type look?
I think it would have been something
Yeah.
similar to how you thought the Hulk, that exploring aspects of the Hulk, of the fugitive Hulk developing. Yeah. It's a different thing again, but I think that would have been something I've been interested in, maybe whether it's a TV show or another movie.
Yeah.
But like the way Thor is now, it's hard to see it.
Yeah, exactly. It works really well for what it is now. It's just it's just always interesting, the what ifs, and not the Marvel what if.
Yeah. I reckon we might see if they explore, because like you don't know how they're going to do this unworthiness thing properly, the Lady Thor.
Yeah.
So we might see if he does go off the rails.
Yeah, it's
I
interesting.
have a feel. Sorry, I'll let you talk, Robin.
It's interesting they're going back to him being unworthy again.
I have a feeling he's going to become Donald Blake. Like he's actually going to just become a human.
Well, does he technically become worthy? Like he gets his powers back, but the fact that Mjolnir gets wielded by someone else.
Yeah, but he's come to a point like in Ragnarok where he didn't even need the hammer and he was just casting lightning.
He had his powers, yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like when before about the whole idea of all the traditions he believed in weren't important anymore. So there's no Asgard anymore. Like he's a king of fugitives essentially in Norway.
Yeah.
So more and more he's. Oh yeah, exactly. He's not even that anymore.
Yeah.
So his role in the world is slowly changing constantly. So, like, I could see him having his own arc similar to like Captain America, where it's like, what's life after Thor? And I know it's a weird thing to think about, but I think Chris Hemsworth is almost 40, so
yeah,
it could be this could be the film where he hangs up his hammer. I don't know.
It's actually a good point too, because we talked about the ongoing theme in Avengers is them learning to be more selfless.
Yeah.
And essentially they've always neglected to take care of themselves, and it was evident in Endgame. He just became some fat, lazy Thor.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe you're right. Maybe he's gonna chuck a cap and just hang it up.
Well, he's meant to be in the new Guardians, isn't he? That's just a rumor.
No,
he's cast.
Oh, he's cast in it? Well, yeah, so that shows some of what he'll be doing.
I'm not sure, because I know the Guardians are going to be in Thor for Love and Thunder, but I know that Love and Thunder is coming before Guardians. So I'm not sure if, who knows what's going to happen with that.
Maybe he's just going to, roam the place, look for other Asgardians, try and bring them all together or something. Who knows? Yeah.
Well, you can see he's getting more and more disconnected from his Asgardians origins. Once upon a time, his best friend was, the Warriors 3. Now his best friend is a raccoon and a rock. and Meek. So, you can tell he's changing a lot.
His only real connection is through Valkyrie.
Yeah.
Who actually, ironically, disconnected from Asgard for a bit as well.
Yeah. So she's an outsider on her own end.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. But he still cares about them, obviously. He still cares about the Asgardians to the point of where he knows they deserve a better leader.
Yeah, 100%.
He's actually, you think about it, he's never become the worthy king of Asgard. He's never, properly sat on the throne and be like, I don't think so.
He's the Dark Knight, the whole, what's the line in the Dark Knight? He's not the hero we need. He's not the hero. He's the hero we deserve, but not the one we need right now. I don't know, something along those lines.
Isn't it the other way around?
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a long podcast.
I fill my brain with MCU knowledge.
So. All right. Well, I reckon we can cap it off there.
Right, just for me, since I love Thor, what do you rate Thor out of 10?
7. No, 6.5.
Okay.
6.5 for me too.
Okay,
I'd
Mark.
say 7.
I'll go 6.5 as well, to be honest. So we'll go 6.5 seems right.
Yep. There you
All
go.
right, then.
Where do you guys rank Thor as a superhero in the MCU?
That's hard because there's so many now.
OG MCU, like OG Avengers.
He's pretty high for me. I like Thor.
That's
Captain. Oh, no, not Captain.
Iron Man and Cap
Strange,
are
Black
like
Panther.
they're very high for me. Like in regards to Iron Man up top, I put Thor like he kind of ties after Incredible Hulk discussion. He kind of ties with the Hulk.
Yeah, I'll put him tying with the Hulk, which makes sense because those two are like.
Yeah, he's above. Hulk's above him for me.
That makes sense. Sorry, Hawkeye, Black Widow. Okay, well, Thor. That's it. That's all we have for you.
There's one other discussion I wanted to ask you. No, don't worry. I was going to make a stupid joke, but I thought I'd just finish the podcast.
Just put it in. Just say it.
No, I was going to say, like, what shampoo to use, but it's really not that funny. Like, I just don't. I've lost all my quips tonight.
Thoriel.
Oh, yeah? Or 3 hour power. Because you're worth it? Like, or because you're worthy?
Something like that. All right, yeah. We'll end it there.
Because if we can't protect the Earth, you can be damn well sure we'll avenge it.
How will your friends have time for me when they're so busy fighting you? This usually works.
Well, look, I just want to close the Natalie Portman segment by saying this, because I feel strongly about this. Natalie Portman, if you're listening to this podcast, I hate you in this movie. By all means, come on the podcast, defend yourself. But you are the reason that this movie is not in my top 10 in the MCU. But I hate you. You're terrible.
Oh, man.
Will you change your mind? And
Love and Thunder is going to be something.
Yeah, then you thought.
Handsy. Was she better in this one or number 2?
Hands down this one. Number 2
That's
sucks.
for New York. I hate that line so much.
Yeah, I think that goes back to her trying too hard.